Hello, everybody, and welcome to your Monday edition of Blood Red Podcast, brought to you by the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Theo Squires, and yes, I have had to just check whether it is actually Monday as we navigate this always confusing week between Christmas and New Year. If you celebrate, I hope you've had a very Merry Christmas. No doubt it was aided by Liverpool extending their unbeaten run to 7 games to move back into the top 4. Joining me today to look back over that victory over Wolves, we've got our Liverpool correspondent, both home and away, Paul Gorst. How are you, Gorst? Did you have a good Christmas?
I did, yeah, very good Christmas. Busy, going around the houses, but very good Christmas. Not so much Boxing Day as I was working, but yeah, good Christmas. And even better that Liverpool kept up their unbeaten run. So it's full steam ahead now, isn't it? It's 2026, and hopefully a better second half of the season, really, than the one that we've had. But yeah, all good, thank you.
A remote recording only today, I'm afraid, but that won't stop us from feeling festive. So, Gorsty, we'll start with the biggest of all questions. Did you get a NordVPN subscription for Christmas?
No, I didn't. No, despite me hints that I left around the house, I remain Nordless. But yeah, of course, they are the ones to invest in if you're looking for your paywall or your anti-paywall, as it were. I'll let you read out the spiel for the advert. But yeah, no, I didn't get one actually.
You should know the advert off by heart now.
Yeah,
I say as I'm about to read it, even though I don't know the script off by heart. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred. Our link will give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link, as always, is in the podcast episode description box. So that's one to send to Tash and the rest of your loved ones for next year.
Yeah, I'll start getting a bit more forceful with the hints.
But yeah, we'll dive straight into it with Wolves. A 2-1 win. It wasn't pretty. It rarely has been this season, but as has been the case the last few weeks, at least Liverpool got the job done.
Yeah, I thought it was a game that summed up Liverpool's season, actually, in a weird way. It was a few positives, but probably a few more things that concerned than you would have liked. I thought Liverpool were decent first half. I was bemoaning again another sort of slow and ponderous first half, and then the flick into gear, don't they, or flick the switch just after 40 minutes. Gravenberch scores, then Wirtz, and I think there was 86 seconds between the goals, so a little quick fire double there to send them into half time with a decent lead against a team who they should be beating, a team who haven't won a game all season, the bottom of the league. They've only got 2 points. Everything looks in hand, doesn't it? And then from nothing, Wolves score. Grab an equaliser against the run of play, didn't really deserve it. Liverpool failing to defend another set piece, and then the nerves just sort of grip Anfield, across the stands. And I had a few people messaging me like, "What's going on?" And it wasn't actually that bad, really, in terms of Wolves. Clearly had the tails up a little bit, but because they're such a poor side, Liverpool weren't massively under the cosh. But the atmosphere made it, more difficult than it had to be, in a strange way. If you're watching the game, from home or whatever, obviously 3:00 kickoff and whatever. But say if you were on your NordVPN and you had the game on, if you had it on mute, you wouldn't really be that concerned from a Liverpool perspective. But we were there, weren't we? The atmosphere around the ground was just racked with anxiety and nerves, and that almost forced Wolves on a little bit. Now, what's his name? The striker, Arakadare, is it? He heads up over the bar. Conor Bradley makes a brilliant tackle. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot to be worried about, but it was just the nerves. And seeing Canate going like that to the crowd with about 10 minutes to go shows you that these players are feeding off that, or not feeding off it, as it were. It's having an adverse effect. But you can understand the supporters' concerns and anxieties around it as well. So, Liverpool just need to improve this defending of set pieces. It's holding them back so much. It really is. That's the 12th goal now that they conceded via set piece. I can't think of many where they put in a corner and someone's just nodded their own and it's just being like, well, sometimes you can't defend against that. It's all scrappy, isn't it? All flick-ons that are missed and players in the wrong position and not getting tight, and it's all very scrappy and sloppy, and it's holding them back. Had Liverpool not been so bad at defending these set-piece situations, how much closer would they be to Arsenal at this stage of the season? They might not have lost that game against Brentford, for example. They might have got a draw at Crystal Palace. All these bad results. Manchester United come to Anfield and win because of a set-piece situation that wasn't defended properly, and they get the winner from that. So, yeah, Liverpool have got a major Achilles heel there, and teams are attacking it, they're exploiting it, and they were getting joy. Liverpool have managed to beat Spurs and beat Wolves despite conceding sloppily from set-piece situations. But yeah, there's a lot to concern Arne Slot there going into the second half of the season, and no wonder he's always talking about it. I've sort of bemoaned it a few times that he seems like a bit of a broken record talking about negative set-piece balances and all that sort of stuff. But until it changes, he's going to keep pointing it out. And is it on him to change? I've seen the debate around that. He's obviously got a set-piece coach in Aaron Briggs who is tasked with this sort of stuff, so maybe it's on him. But ultimately, the blame does fall on Slot. Doesn't you can sort of demand more from the players, and Van Dijk was talking about after the game, you improve this sort of stuff by training and repetition and all that sort of stuff. And it's difficult to recreate the game situations with the scenarios and the atmosphere and the fact that, if you're doing a defending corners routine 20 times in training, are the strikers going to be looking to attack the ball in the same way that an opposition would in an actual game? Probably not. But it's certainly something that's got to improve for Liverpool if they are to make anything of this season now. But yeah, still some positives though. Florian Wirtz was the best player on the pitch. Ekitike continued his good run of form. Milos Kerkez is getting a bit of stability and consistency there at left back. And thought Curtis Jones was good again. So, despite my rant there about the set pieces, Liverpool did come away with a few positives, and they are up to fourth, which, was clearly a big boost given how bad sort of November to September was. September to November.
I'll keep it on the set pieces because I did have it further down on the agenda, but we've gone into it now. It's a strange one on how do you actually rectify it, because say they'd signed Marc Guéhi on transfer deadline day, it's not a case of one centre-back changes everything. They've had injuries, so they've had to have a lot of changes at right-back. They haven't got the backup at centre-back, but it's still a partnership that has been first choice for a number of years now. Yes, Alisson missed a large chunk of the season so far, and they've got a new goalkeeper in Mamardashvili, but Alisson's back now. They're still conceding the goals. There is this nervousness to them that as soon as the ball's in the air and it goes over one head and there's a second ball coming in, it could go anywhere. Like we saw that last time they played Leeds in the 3-3 for the equaliser, but it is every single week. So it's like, well, how do you rectify it when it was something that was never an issue for Liverpool only a couple of years ago?
Yeah, it's. I mean, Van Dijk was saying, like I say, he was just suggesting that repetition on the training ground is how you go about it. I think if you look at each I mean, I don't know all the 12 off the top of my head, but I'm thinking of the Eddie Nketiah winner for Palace in September. That comes from Liverpool having a mindset of them having already won so many games late on that it's 1-1 in stoppage time, that they can go and win the game. So then they're not defending the long throw properly because they're already thinking of breaking out and attacking and getting up the other pitch. So the other side of the pitch. So if you look at that Nketiah winner, I think Frimpong goes to make the run forward before Liverpool have defended it properly, and that leaves him with all kinds of space to grab the winner. And it's a similar situation against United. They're into the last 10. They're at home. They've just equalised. They're almost thinking of trying to get the winner, so they don't defend that set piece properly. And Bruno Fernandes hooks one in, and they've got 2 or 3 at the back post, haven't they, waiting to pounce. But also as well, I guess a bit of it is the makeup of the team at certain stages of the game, which is a failing of Slot. He's basically thrown on a number of attackers, hasn't he, a number of times, and the structure of the team has gone to the wall and it's got worse. And we've criticised them a lot for that, I know I have, but I don't think that was the case on Saturday because, Wolves equalised, when was it? Just before an hour maybe. So it's, I don't really know. Is it too many new players in the team, not used to what they're meant to be doing and whatever? I've just been looking, because I'm writing a piece around this, at Liverpool's job spec for the set-piece coach that they wanted in the summer. And, it sort of talks about the responsibilities of the person who has that job and what they have to do. And it's delegating man-marking assignments and, assessing the opposition's threats from set-pieces. And the game's generally gone that way, hasn't it? You know, the amount of times now I'll just watch Match of the Day just to keep up with the footy as you do, not in any sort of professional capacity, but the amount of teams the amount of highlights you see that are just teams attacking a high ball in the 6-yard box, and it's just bodies. It just seems to be the trend of football at the moment now, and Liverpool aren't very good at defending it. So I guess, like Van Dijk says, it's just a case of training on the pitch. You know, if this is a failing of the team, which I think it is, isn't it? You know, collectively, I think you have to say Adam Briggs probably needs to start in his corner a little bit more. And either, you know, whoever's door you put the blame at, it's got to improve, because, like I say, it's just holding Liverpool back. You know, that Saturday would have been a relatively straightforward 2 or even 3-0 win, 4-0 win if Wolves hadn't have got that goal in that fashion, and then the whole mood around the game just changes. So that's got to change. And, you know, I don't think we're expecting Liverpool to hit the heights of last season straight away. They're sort of building a bit of form, 7 unbeaten now, slowly getting there. Performances aren't really there at the moment, but the results are for now. So they are building a base for the second half of the season, but if they keep sort of conceding goals as sloppily as they have been, then they're not really going to properly emerge away from that torrid sort of 2 months that they had when everything was getting questioned.
Now, this has been a nice negative 10 minutes, hasn't it? It's time going on about set pieces, so we will talk some positives from the game. The main one will be Florian Wirtz. He was superb once again, gets his goal, long time coming, but he's been great for a number of weeks now. It's good to see him finally end that drought.
Yeah, he's been great. He's been good for like a month or so now. You know, look back to the West Ham game, and I think a lot of it coincides with him being moved from the central area to the wide left position. He's building a decent little relationship with Kirkez. You know, we've seen him a number of times, particularly in the first half, out on that left-hand side. And there was one in the second half when I think he beats a man on the byline, pulls it back to Gravenberch. And there's loads to be encouraged by and enthusiastic about. You know, that ball he puts through to Ekitike in the first half, and he goes on and hits the post. He obviously takes his goal really well. He's obviously playing off the left, which has allowed Liverpool to be a bit more compact and a bit more physical in the central areas, with, you know, Jones in particular starting playing 4 in a row. But yeah, he's really starting to find his feet. But, you know, playing off the left on a team sheet, but he's still being allowed, you know, the license to go and roam and move into central positions, and, you know, playing as a striker at times from his goal, you know, when the opportunities arise. So it's been a really good month for him. You know, now he just has to keep it up and keep getting better. And yeah, I'm starting to see what all the hype was about, which, you know, I've seen him enough at Leverkusen to know that he's a special player, and starting to show it on a bit more of a consistent basis now at Liverpool. So yeah, he's been a real positive over the last few weeks, and now he's just got to keep it up and get even better.
It's going to be interesting going forward now, because while Liverpool still have a number of absences, they've got a couple of players coming back. Like Cody Gakpo made an appearance off the bench, didn't he, at the weekend? Szoboszlai won't be suspended now. So Slot, for the first time in a few weeks, actually got decisions to make for who lines up where in those attacking positions. It would be very easy to just put Gakpo back on the left, but when Wirtz is playing so well, do you just leave Cody Gakpo out of it? Or when you've got Salah at AFCON, Isak's injured now, do you try and find a way to get them all in the team?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think Gakpo's done enough to warrant an instant recall. You know, we know that Slot likes him, but he's been as ordinary as anyone else in the first half of that season. You know, Mo Salah obviously hogs the limelight for all of that, but I don't think Salah was any worse than Gakpo has been. So don't think he particularly deserves to go back in, especially at a time when Florian Wirtz seems to have settled on a little bit of a position and a bit of rhythm and momentum. So yeah, it is nice to have the options, like you say. You know, we've seen Federico Chiesa start on Saturday, which was only his second ever Premier League start, you know, and he's been here 18 months now, hasn't he? So clearly, you know, Liverpool are a bit stretched at the moment, but getting Gakpo back is a positive. But at the moment, Wirtz has the shirt, so it has to stay like that for me. You know, you don't change your winning side, as the old maxim goes, and maybe there's a there's an option for Gakpo through the middle. We know Slot hasn't really looked to do that much, if at all, during his time as Liverpool manager. And one of the first things he seemed to do when he come in was just get Gakpo off the left, the way he made his name in Dutch football. But could that be an option? Ekitike is going to need a breather at some point because he's axed out and he can't play every game and kick every ball. So maybe Gakpo through the middle could be an option over the next few weeks, and hopefully Mo Salah will be back in, however long that takes. It'll certainly be before the end of January, won't it, either way? So yeah, I'd certainly be keeping Wirtz in, and Gakpo can be, the first reserve off the bench if needed.
You say don't change a winning side, but I'd imagine there is going to be at least one player that drops out, and that's going to be Federico Chiesa. Szoboszlai will be back. As you said, it's only his second Premier League start. You can understand why he wasn't at his best, considering he hasn't had much start in football. But it was an opportunity for him, and he didn't really grab it, did he?
It's tough, isn't it? It's really tough when you're not playing much, and when you get your opportunities, you're expected to take them when you haven't got that, like, say, the rhythm and the momentum and those sorts of things that managers place so much stock in. So asking him to come in and instantly deliver is tough, but he knows that. He knows the score, doesn't he? So he has to take these opportunities when they do arise. And I don't think he was poor, but he didn't really grasp the nettle, did he? With particularly against a team who were, the weakest in the division. That was an opportunity for him to, give Slot something really to think about. But Szoboszlai will come back now, and we expect him to go straight back into the team. We know how much he's trusted and valued by Slot. So, yeah, he didn't really take his chance, Chiesa. The breakthrough comes down that side of the pitch, but it's due to Frimpong bursting forward and getting down to the byline. And I thought he was a positive, to be fair, on Saturday. Only his second Premier League start as well. He starts against Bournemouth in August, and a couple of hamstring injuries and whatever else. So it was a good day for him. Chiesa less so, but he's still there. He's still an option at a time when Liverpool really do need the options. But yeah, you're right. I don't think he particularly, put down a marker for a future claim, given that Szoboszlai will be back, and obviously Salah, on the horizon in the next few weeks as well. I don't know what you think about Chiesa's performance in general.
He just wasn't involved, was he? Like, it wasn't landing for him. He was trying, but he's more of an impact player. When you're not getting those starting opportunities, you're not going to be able to do a full 90 minutes. But I thought it was quite telling that he's taken off on the hour mark, and it's Frimpong who's moved further forward. Frimpong's not played for, 2-3 months, and he completes the 90 minutes. So it maybe was a risk there from Arne Slot, and he said he's going to have to make a couple of risks when the bodies are not quite there. But for Frimpong to get through 90 minutes, he's clearly ahead of Chiesa in the pecking order when it comes to that right wing position. So Szoboszlai is going to be as well.
Yeah, and you look at it, and he's actually fourth choice at the moment, Chiesa, because obviously he's Mo Salah, and then Szoboszlai plays there if needed. Jeremie Frimpong, like you say, who's a right back / bit of a versatile forward. So Chiesa's actually way down the pecking order, isn't he? And the fact that that's only his second Premier League start in a season and a half tells you how sort of low down the pecking order he is, really. And he's a useful enough option to have for Slot, but I certainly don't think he was someone who Slot, was demanding when he signed in January, signed in August of last year, wasn't it? I think it was a bit of a opportunistic one, as he said. Relatively cut price for a player who had, a bit of cachet, given what he'd done in Italy and for Italy. But yeah, it's he just seems to be a little bit of a backup rotation squad player, doesn't he, Chiesa? Which is fine. Every team has to have them. But yeah, he didn't really take his chance on Saturday. And, we may see him against Leeds, but I think maybe the FA Cup against Barnsley will be the one where he'll have to properly show what he can do again.
He's the Minamino Origi role in the squad, isn't he? It's just a bit different because he's got this cult following, because we saw how good he was for Italy in the Euros in 2021 and everything he's achieved for Juventus and Fiorentina. He's just not the same player he would have been 4 years ago because of that ACL injury. Whether he can get back to those heights probably won't be at Liverpool when he's not getting the opportunities. We'll have to wait and see. We'll talk a bit more about Frimpong, though, because he is someone who did take his opportunity, came on against Spurs and made an impact, and good 90 minutes for him in two positions at the weekend against Wolves. It's been a bit frustrating for him with the hamstring injuries, But Arne Slot was delighted to have him back. He could say how important it is having that pace in the side.
Yeah, he gives them real pace, doesn't he? He's. I mean, we're still yet to see what he's all about defensively. Like I say, only his second Premier League start, wasn't massively tested on the day as a right back against Wolves. But when he's in the side in those types of games, that's exactly what you want to see him do. Overlapping the forward, getting into those positions. I mean, he's a totally different profile from Trent, isn't he? He's not someone who can pick the ball up 60, 70 yards from goal and you're sort of on the edge of your seat waiting for him to pick a pass. He's very much, speed oriented, get down the wing. And it's great to see him getting on the overlap so many times and taking his man on. And once you're in those positions, it's about picking the passes. And he did it for Gravenberch. I thought it was, a brilliant assist at the time when Liverpool was struggling really to carve out any proper chances. So, yeah, it's been a good week for him, to be fair. Obviously, he comes on against Tottenham, takes a whack to the face and then goes off. But just making his return, and it's 2 assists, from those sorts of positions. He clips in the ball for Ekitike and he gets the assist on Saturday. So, yeah,
well, he won the penalty
actually
at Burnley as well when he made his comeback back in, we're talking September there, aren't we?
Yeah,
so considering he's barely played in the Premier League, that's 3 goals he's contributed to. He scores on his debut as well in the Community Shield. It's not bad for someone who's been out for half the season so far.
Yeah, it's a good point, yeah. I think we were talking about it, weren't we, midway through the game, and I think the way football is now with transfers and stuff, I think £29 million is probably not a lot. It's Liverpool paid that for Giovanni Leone, 18-year-old, rookie. So I think Liverpool got a little bit of a bargain here, and obviously it's down to the release clause and whatever else. But he's come to Liverpool. What is he? 23, 24. Still got loads of improvements to make, I'm sure, but that looks like it could be a bit of a bargain. And obviously, it's a limited sample size so far, but given his versatility and his qualities, the fact that he brings so much speed to the side that doesn't have it in massive abundance, say for maybe 1 or 2 players, I think it's it could be a really shrewd sign. And that he's just got to stay fit, because 2 hamstring injuries for a player who relies on his speed in the first few months is a bit of a worry. But right now he's fit and he's playing well. So hopefully we see more of him in the next few months.
Now, there are similarities to that transfer, and one Liverpool have been linked with in January, and Semenyo from Bournemouth. Recent reports are suggesting it's City who are leading the race for him, but Liverpool seem to still be keeping an eye on it and behind the scenes. What do we know so far? Will Liverpool be going in for him, 65 million release clause, or just keep the powder dry?
I mean, I've had a couple of conversations with people today who was, suggesting that it could likely be a quiet January on the transfer front, and that might make a few eyes roll, and there's a need for a centre back and maybe a need for a forward. But yeah, Manchester City seem to be the front runners, don't they? I've just read the report there that City would be stunned if Liverpool were able to hijack this move now, and City are in talks with Bournemouth. Relatively straightforward, given it's the release clause, which is only in play for the first 10 days of January, which is quite unusual. And then it's sort of returns in the summer months. So, it could be one of those, if City don't get it over the line, then maybe Liverpool could emerge in the summer. But at the moment, it's looking like Liverpool are steering clear of it. And it's Manchester City who are the front runners at this stage. I think he couldn't agree personal terms with Manchester United in the summer. He's turned down Tottenham. Chelsea had a look and then quickly decided not to have a look. So maybe they were informed of City's progress at that point. But certainly someone who could have his pick of the top sides. But yeah, Liverpool, according to the conversations I've had from a number of people today, it does seem as though they not necessarily in the run, and City are leading the chase.
If that one is one that isn't going to happen, he is City bound. There is maybe one player Liverpool can look to bring in, or bring back, should I say, in January, and that's Harvey Elliott. He's not getting a look in at Villa. We know Unai Emery's come out and said he's not going to be signing him permanently. Arne Slot's been asked about him a couple of times and he's not really entertained it, saying you have to ask Aston Villa about that.
Yeah.
But from a Liverpool point of view, it makes sense to bring him back because they are short on bodies. They could really do with an extra attacker there. He wouldn't cost him anything. And if you leave him at Villa, he's not even making the bench. Whereas at least if he's at Liverpool, you can have him on the bench, give him minutes here and there, and he's training. You've got more control over his future.
Yeah, I don't think there's a break clause in that loan deal, though. So I think, the information I had was that Aston Villa would have to basically pick up the phone to Liverpool and start the discussions. Liverpool can't say, can we have him back? Because I think that would mean financial punishment for Villa if that clause was to break, type of thing. So at the moment, it just looks like he's trapped in the system, unfortunately. Could he be an option for Liverpool? Right now, certainly. But for the rest of the season, with a full complement of players, where does he fit in? He's a talented player, of course he is, but he didn't really play much last season. One Premier League start, which I think came at Brighton after the title had been won. And Liverpool's struggles this season have been against teams who are more physical and more direct. So a fleet-footed attacking midfielder without really a fixed position, probably not the solution for that, is he? But I do feel a bit for him because he's obviously gone there. There wasn't much speculation involving Villa in the transfer window. It was obviously Leipzig who were keen. I think he basically turned down an advance from West Ham. But
that looks a good decision though in hindsight.
It does, yeah. But obviously it was hurriedly pushed through, wasn't it, on transfer deadline day with the agreement to pay 35 million if he plays 10 games. What is he now? Is he 6 games in, 5 or 6 games in? So
5, I think.
It doesn't look like that's going to be triggered. And you can't really say Villa are making a mistake because, they're up to 3rd in the Premier League. They've just beaten Chelsea, the team who were 4th. There's, some of the more optimistic Villa fans might even be thinking of a title charge. They've got Arsenal to come next. That's a huge game for them. And they've got Morgan Rogers, who's one of the outstanding players in the division. Emi Buendia has played at times. Even Ross Barkley's had a game there. So Unai Emery's clearly got a number of options there. And, Aston Villa are skating around the PSR issues as well. So if they were to invoke that clause and have to pay 35 million for a player who's not really part of the plans, then that would be, pretty foolish on their part. So Harvey, unfortunately, looks like he's in a bit of a sticky situation between now and the end of the season because he can't play for another club because he came on against Newcastle for Liverpool in August. So he's already played for 2 clubs in the same season. So I think a team can buy him, but he can't be registered. So, what is the point of that from the buying club's perspective? So he's in a bit of limbo. And I think, long term, he's still got an incredibly bright future. He's not 23 till April, but I think between now and the end of the season, the short-term future looks like he might have to sit on his hands a little bit and just try and keep himself fit and try and somehow force his way into Emery's plans. But at the moment, no major talks between the clubs about bringing him back.
So we're expecting a quiet January then. That'll be music to the ears of fans after a difficult first half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand supporters who might feel like a forward player could be an option. And, it still might. This is not the death knell for incomings with January. We know Liverpool have ducks in a row and move quickly when things fall into place. Luis Diaz is a perfect example of that, isn't he? Liverpool had earmarked him for the summer of 2022 and then Tottenham made the move and Liverpool's hand was forced and they had to bring him in January as a result. So something like that could happen. But as we stand now, we're not even at the beginning of January yet. It doesn't look like a lot is going to be done. Marc Guéhi, for me, I still think Liverpool will look to keep their name at the top of his list for the summer when he's a free agent. Doesn't look like Palace want to sell anyway because they're still in the Conference League and he's the captain and all that sort of stuff. And also, I don't think he's a magic wand for Liverpool's set pieces issues either. Really, I think he's obviously a Premier League centre back, so he's decent enough in the air, but he's not. That's not his major strength. He's more on the ball, isn't he, and playing out from the back, and that could suit Liverpool at times because I think teams are working out that if they can get Canate on the ball more often than not, then Liverpool's threat is significantly reduced. Guéhi is better on the ball, but him coming in wouldn't suddenly cure Liverpool of their set-piece problems. But yeah, I think as a free agent in the summer, he would be an unbelievable purchase. But at the moment for January, I don't think it's going to be a case of bringing him in to bolster the centre-back ranks.
That's all we've got time for today. Don't worry, we've not forgotten Leeds United. We are going to be back on New Year's Eve to look ahead to Liverpool's first game of 2026, and I believe we'll be back in the studio for that one as well for a live recording. Producer Ian will be back off his holidays, so hopefully no remote recording there. Though Gorsty's in the studio anyway if you're watching this later on YouTube. Thanks to Gorsty for joining me, and thanks to all you guys at home for tuning in. Until next time, I've been Theo Squires and you've been listening to the Blood Red Podcast.